What is the full name of that security?
Spring security, actually I don't remember that, but basically it includes Spring and security that I remember.
Okay, Spring Boot Starter Security.
Okay, Spring Boot Starter Security.
Very good. So, can you explain authentication, authorization versus JWT?
Yes, sir. These also comes under the application security. Okay, authorization, authentication looks for who you are. Who you are in the sense, like if you take in any bank application or the bank you are, sometimes there is a clerk and the employee and the manager. So each of them, at first when you log in, the authentication looks for who are you, either you are clerk, manager, or someone. If authorization comes into the picture, where which data you can access. Authorization takes place, what you can do usually. So usually clerk only he can see the balance if we think like that. But if we look into the manager can look into our statements and have access to that. And coming to the JWT usually full forms as JSON Web Token. JSON Web Token will be which follows some process. It follows a stateless. Usually when we do any of the application with the basic security, it's a stateful, which is includes in bank application, which if we have done any update with the authentication you have taken or the authorization you have taken, it will be stored for almost 10 to 15 minutes. But coming to the JWT, it will usually store until the session. If we close any session over there, it will redirect to the at first, and while using the JWT, it will usually generates a token with the stateless. That token we have to give in the, if you are using any of the validation tools with the auth barrier if you remove that. But giving that auth barrier, at first when we hit any of the with not secured API, it will usually generate a authentication token for us. That token has to be given over there.
So how you mentioned some process? What is that some process you did?
Some process was when we are writing, I usually follows that JWT util class, and not only that, I used a JWT filter. JWT util has some methods inside that, which includes of algorithm which we have used. I have used SHA-256, which is used for the encryption, and here I also used string method like substring, which usually takes the username as front of that, and which it also includes dot expiry and the dot issue is issue date. This issue date will be taken in the system dot time milliseconds, which will provide a time over there.
Okay.
And it comes to the JWT filter. There I have used one interface called do secure once per request. And not only that, we can also use a security filter chain also over there. In this security filter chain, what the substring we have taken as the username, it will match that username.
What is security filter chain? Why should I go for filter chain?
Okay, sometimes anybody can access, right? So that security token which is generated, as I already told, it depends on the controllable access.
Okay.
So that security filter chain checks is you can be access to these documents or not. Depends on that, the security filter comes into the picture and generates over there.
Okay, great. So can you tell me, did you added any centralized exception handling in your place?
Yeah. When I am working with one of my project, I have used centralized exception, and I have also used and I also the annotation includes of @REST controller advice, which comes at a class level, and @exception handler, which comes at a method level.
Okay.
So when I'm doing my project, I have given some validations. When I have taken an entity class, for the same entity class I have taken another request class. For example, in that I have added some of the validations like @not blank, @not null, for email. No, anybody can write their name without presenting email, right? So for I have given email, and I have used a string regex operation for the mobile number, which I at least required 10 digits. So, and I have used a valid annotation in the response body, where I have used in the controller.
Okay, tell me differences between properties file versus YAML file.
Okay, properties file, which what I have written is the key value page, which I required for my project. I have used the MySQL workbench, so I have used the MySQL data. So this properties file has to be write like spring dot data source dot driver class name. If we can provide the value over there, after that we have to write spring dot data source dot URL, spring dot data source dot username, spring dot data source dot password, which includes the boilerplate code. No, number of words has been repeated. But if we come into the picture of the YML, it follows a tree structure. At first, it will start with the spring. After the indentation, it will focus on the data source. After again the indentation, it's like, have you seen, if it's like a tree structure. So we don't have a repetition of words coming to the spring and data source.
Great, wonderful. Okay, so tell me, did you use any React in your application? You mentioned React APIs.
React API in the sense which basically the smaller project I have done comparing to the React with the help of @cross origins, and I have used the local host of 3000 for mapping my React API to my Spring Boot application main method.
Okay, can you tell me about React hooks?
React hooks we use, what I have more coming to the picture is use state and use effect. Use state where I have used like passing the values while checking the constant key variable and passing the values. Use effect I have used where if I want to get affected, if I done any changes, like if I am seeing any of the orders I have used, if you add to cart the values you have, at least first if it is there is 1, if you want to update it as 2, their increment and decrement comes into the process, right? At the place of that I have used a use effect over there.
Great. So can you tell me differences between DDL versus DML?
Okay, DDL comes of data definition language, DML comes of data manipulation language, which comes under the SQL, and data definition language where we write create table, that we are defining the tables here. So if we want to work or manipulate our table, we usually go for DML, which includes of insert, update, delete, that operations.
Okay, what about DML?
DML of data
DDL?
DDL create table, create database. That comes under the DDL.
Okay. Another thing one is
when I work with my first project, which is of REST template, there I have to map each employee address with the each employee. So there I have used @1-to-1, which is of, if we think like that, my address table is of right side and employee table is of left side. So I have to include this mapping on the ID which I have given with the address. I have to map that each ID, that address I have to map, where there I have used the right join over there. Right join in the sense I'm including this address data into the employee data.
Okay. So you mentioned OpenFin, right? What is the application name of OpenFin client which you completed?
So OpenFin client I have used it as a QuickCart.
QuickCart. Okay, what it will do?
It's basically a payment and order, which is used in which I have worked on microservices. There usually order table deals with the order details and payment details, which has all the payment related details.
Okay.
And I have used the same column name.
In such cases, did you get a chance to work on @transactional?
@transactional, when I want to use @AOP, when comes into the picture aspect object programming, when I want to use @transactional, that flow has to go like I am having only basic little exposure of that. But if I use that the same thing in our project, that @transactional, if I used, if any times one of my service get failed, with the exposure I'm having of that, the other service will get into the wait state.
I'll tell you one scenario.
Okay, sir.
Here I have one person who is having a bank account.
Okay.
Okay, this guy and this guy is having a joint account with his friend.
Okay.
Okay, so both are having some amount in 1 lakh rupee in a balance. Okay, so both have the debit cards. Both are going to the same time into the ATM, and both are trying to get the amount in the same time. So tell me, those two people will get the 1 lakh rupees, or how it is managing in these scenarios? In that particular scenario, how you will be going to manage?
Both the people are accessing the amount at the same time. Usually, I think, as of my knowledge, at the same time, in the sense, it's like a multi-threading over here. If we take into the process,
Okay.
We cannot expect the output of that.
Okay.
Anybody can get, like it's like booking a seat in our just tickets or book my show. We can't, like, if the same people are hitting the same seat at the same time, we can't decide, like if the payment also done at the same time, we can't decide which people can get the book seat, right?
What is the scenario? How you can achieve then?
How we can achieve in the sense, like we use synchronization.
Okay.
Synchronization also, we can use the synchronization, or if we coming into the microservices without failing any of the service, we can either use circuit breaker or resilience 4G.
In such cases, we can use at the transactional too.
Okay, at the transaction.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So good job, Sujit, and all the best.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.